Well, good morning. I want to welcome you, Miki Talebi from oomé, to this podcast, the Heart of Food and Beverage.
Thank you.
So pleased that you're here with us. I'm actually really pleased that that we can talk, because there was a video that I'd seen of you recently that I know I commented on when I saw it, and it was of you. It was like a 1-minute video, right, of just your company and the things that you do, and I was so touched by it. And I really wanted to actually do this podcast with you when I saw that. That was the thing that really grabbed me, because my reason for doing my business when I had Tarragon Foods was my mom. And my mom had passed away. And so I was trying to honor her through the recipes that she and my grandmother made. And so when I saw that, it was like, oh, I know this story. I know the story, and I know the emotions that come with it. And so I just want to know from you, like, what that process has been like for you, taking an idea like that, and maybe walk people through a little bit about why that came to be and how that's impacted you as you go forward, the story.
For sure. Well, thank you, Andrea. That's always so reassuring to hear that the video that we worked on does evoke that kind of emotion, because that really was the whole motivation around telling our story. I talk about the story, through these kinds of platforms, but it was never something that we properly put out with the brand. And so I feel like that was a long time coming, to be able to put that founders video together and really share with our community what the real why behind oomé is. But it started because my father, as I mentioned in the video, was just so passionate. We grew up where food was just such a pivotal point around which our lives revolved. And he loved using his smoker. He was always tinkering with his smoker, creating these amazing meals. And during the pandemic, unrelated to the pandemic itself, he got in a really tragic accident. And 4 months later, he passed away. So during that whole experience, my sister and I, we would prepare these meals for our young children, and then go and spend the rest of the day with my mom and really support her and be another set of eyes and ears around what was happening with my father. And it's that constant challenge of, like, what are you going to cook for your children today? And smoked tofu is one of those really clean, simple proteins, minimally processed, nicely flavored, easy to eat, and we couldn't find it anywhere on the shelf during that time. And that's really where I very facetiously had said to my sister, like, well, I've got Dad's smoker just sitting on the balcony. Why don't I make us some smoked tofu that would fill the gap for the kids? Really never did anything with that. But when he passed away, it just felt like this calling of taking a chance on myself, because up until that point I had really been very risk averse. And feeling like it was an opportunity to honor my father and do something that would be very different.
Did he smoke tofu?
No, he would be rolling over thinking about smoking. He was a brisket, smoked salmon,
Okay, so this is actually a perfect marriage of your mother and your father.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yes.
And can I ask what your father's name is?
His name was Bob. Full name Robert, but everyone called him Bob. Bob Bidner. And okay. He would think that it was just a ridiculous thing. But for me, I'm not vegan, but very much plant forward, and that just feels much more aligned with who I am. And it felt like an opportunity in the market. So
that's so funny, because I have to tell you that without sort of knowing this story today,
yes,
I actually assumed that he did smoke tofu.
No.
And and I was actually quite surprised when I met your mother, because I actually thought it was your father that was Japanese,
right,
and that was why you were doing this.
Yes, I think people assume that.
Yeah, there's lots of assumptions, of course, with people, but I think that's quite beautiful, because it is kind of a nod to your mom and your dad.
It
right?
really is, and the name too.
So.
It's a Japanese name, oomé, plum blossom in Japanese. We spelt it a bit differently, and so really it's that nod to the Japanese side of the heritage, but then really using the smoker to honor my father and his legacy.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Oh, that's sweet. I'm glad I heard this story today. I really didn't understand it, so that's great. And I think always good to, that's why I asked your father's name. I think it's really good to continue to talk about people even when they've passed, because everything that we do, it touches on those people, and it brings it more personal. It brings it more home to us when we say a person's name, right, and talk about them in that way. So absolutely. I really thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. And so you moved through this business. So Sana came on board quite quickly, right? Your husband.
Yes.
And so how did that all come to be?
Sure. So we launched May 2022, and 3 months into the business, he left his, really stable job. I think he could see that we were building some good traction. The product was well received from the get-go, and we're very lucky with such a supportive community. And scaling is not my forte. I came up with the recipes, I figured out the branding and all of those pieces, but really the operational side is not a skill set that I'm strong in, and he is very good that way. And I think he saw an opportunity. We always thought that we would be really good doing something. We just never knew what that would be. And this felt like an opportunity to really bring that to life. So he really took a risk as well and left his full-time job. He has a background in R&D, and he's an engineer by trade. So the logistical, very calculated.
The operational mind.
Building efficiency, operations. He's really good that way. So we work in our own lanes, which is healthy for us. And we have complementary skills. It's worked out really well.
So what is the dinner table like?
The dinner table is me asking him, like, did you see that email? And him being like, we're not talking about work at the table here, Miki.
Okay, so he brings up
Talk to the kids about their day.
Right.
Yes, yeah. It is, it is challenging to shut off. And I think that's something I have to continue to work on. It's harder for me.
So he's better at it.
He is better at building those boundaries. Yes. Yeah.
And so now into that mix is your two children who are quite young.
Yes.
Right? You've got a 10-year-old?
10-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Yep.
So they are quite young. They still are at that age that they enjoy being with their parents, which I know is not going to be forever. No. And so that's a constant struggle. You want to create those moments with your children and really be there and carve out that family time. But we also are like really at the beginning of stages of growing a business, and it just takes everything that you have. And so I have to remind myself that it's really the quality and not the quantity, because we do spend almost every waking moment. If we're not with our kids, we're doing the job or we're sleeping.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
They have a hard time. They have a hard
time too. I mean, they come with us. They know that when there's a big PO coming through, it's all hands on deck, and we're all at the facility. They might be stamping or stickering or watching Netflix, and that's okay. But also, I'm traveling or I'm doing demos. I'm at markets on the weekend. I try to say no to some of these things, but also, growing the brand, and particularly my daughter, I think, really struggles with me being away a little bit more than I was prior to that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's tough because she's young.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what do you do for Miki? What do you do to recharge?
What do I do to recharge? I mean, I would say it is hard right now, but ideally, if I am getting a decent amount of sleep, I'm getting up early before everybody else and doing a little bit of movement. Like I like to do like a little bit of in our closet in the bedroom when everyone else is sleeping, yoga and Pilates. That's what I do for myself because there's really no other time in the day to squeeze anything in. And hopefully in the future we will gain that work-life balance back a little bit. But,
yeah, I know it's tough. What did you do before?
I love cooking. I still love cooking, but now it's centered around like, what kind of fun thing can I do with smoked tofu to put on Instagram or add to our blog, add to our roster of recipes. So everything just has a bit of a filter of work around it, which makes it a bit more challenging to really enjoy. Even books, I love reading, but I gravitate towards all the work, like the entrepreneurial books or the entrepreneur podcasts now, because it all is just about how do I continue to motivate myself? Who's inspiring out there? What are some of the trade secrets or anything just to find that motivation to keep going? Yeah.
I don't know how you find enough hours in a day because you seem to be everywhere right now.
Trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. So let's switch a little bit to some of the things that have been happening for you in work and some of the achievements that you've had. So how are things going with the business? Can you tell me a little bit about some milestones?
Things are going really well. It is incredibly busy right now, which is a good thing in a growing brand. So over, we're 2.5 years in right now, and I would say some of the big milestones for us. Of course, getting into Whole Foods, I think, is many brands' dream, and we were very fortunate to receive that news really early into oomé, and one of the big challenges with that is the certifications, all the food safety requirements that go hand in hand with being in such an amazing retailer. So for us, just getting all of those SOPs, the food safety, the traceability, that felt like a giant undertaking that for me was incredibly overwhelming. And again, Sana really is strong in that area, so I'm very grateful that he was on board with us. So being able to properly onboard, that was a huge milestone, and that really motivated us to move into our own shared facility, which was huge, coming out of a 10x10 commissary. Mm-hmm. So that was a big piece. And then, jumping forward to right now, we're actually onboarding into 2 really significant retailers for ourselves. One is Metro, and that PO went out last week. So it'll be going out to all of the metros in Ontario, which is exciting. Huge. Yes, that's very exciting. And then at the end of November, we also are going to be launching into all Save-On Foods across Canada.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that's huge. Yeah, we'll be able to actually double our door count by the end of this year, which is a big goal of ours. And it's amazing when you're able to accomplish a goal that seems a little bit lofty.
Mm-hmm. That is a very lofty goal.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder too about your personality. Like, are you an extrovert or an introvert? What do you consider yourself?
I don't consider myself an extrovert, and I think that surprises people. Recently, they just assume I'm an extrovert because I post about the experience on Instagram. I have done a few podcasts, but I think I go back and I recharge. Like, I'm not necessarily an extrovert by nature, but I am making a point of really putting ourselves and our brand out there. I think it's really important. I myself admire hearing about the journey and behind the scenes of other brands. And so I'm just really trying to emulate what I would appreciate seeing as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you may be like me, an introvert extrovert.
Yes.
So you're really quite introverted, but then you can make yourself go out and do those things.
Exactly.
But then you need to go hide under your bed covers for 2 days afterwards.
Totally. I remember my husband, I think it was on the way to CHFA last year. We were driving in and it was just silent in the car. And he was like, "What is going on? Why are you so quiet?" And I looked at him and I said, we're about to spend 8 hours on at 110%, full energy, smiles, meet and greets. I need to save my energy. I need to protect that now.
I completely understand this. I'm the same. If I have to go to any event that's like tons and tons of people, it's the same for me. It's like I have to turn it on like a light switch.
Exactly.
And then once it's over,
you just retreat. Yeah.
I gotta hide. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I totally understand this. Well, that's exciting. I'm really happy to hear that the business is growing and that you're so engaged with the business. And you had mentioned that you're pretty much doing this all yourselves. You have a very skeleton team doing this. So
very much.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very lean team. We are not working with a broker. It's really myself procuring all of these relationships with our retailers. Sana, my husband, is on production. We have one full-time, one part-time production assistant really supporting him. And then, we have social media. Jay, he has been fantastic at really elevating our social media presence. And that's our team. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We're lean.
It's probably going to have to change soon.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
You need
and
a little bit more.
My mom comes in and she does packaging.
Well, it sounds like it's very much a family affair.
Very
right?
much. It really takes a village, even with the children.
Yeah.
Leaning on them for support has been huge.
So your mom takes the kids a lot?
My mom and my mother-in-law, they both kind of share the load on school pickup. We drop the kids off, and then it's not possible to get a work day in when you pick up children at 2:40. So
it's hard.
Yeah, they pick the kids up and look after them, and then we try to get in the house around 5 or 6 o'clock and take over until until bedtime.
Oh my gosh.
And back to work.
Do you get 8 hours of sleep a night?
No, Andrea.
Are you lucky to get 6?
Lucky to get 6. 6 is the sweet, like, if I could get 6, that would be good. Wow. Sometimes it's less. There's a threshold. I can't do less than 5, but no, it's not enough sleep for sure at this time. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so just for the listeners, when did you start? Because I think this is quite a trajectory that you've had.
Yes. I mean, incorporation was August 2021. So that's really when, like, the decision was I'm really going to try and figure out how to launch a CPG brand. But then a lot of the background of what would the brand look like? What would the packaging look like? Still tinkering on the recipes. I realized very quickly that I couldn't just do this out of my kitchen because we are a high-risk product, different than baked goods.
Yep.
And so immediately needed to figure out a commissary kitchen. So all of those pieces happened behind the scenes, and then we launched May 2022. And then, and we're here 2.5 years later.
Wow. That's a very, just so that folks understand that are listening, that's a very, very extreme trajectory. It's typically, just from my experience, it's typically been 5 years for a brand to kind of really sort of start to see that upward trend. You don't usually get sort of the hockey stick like
Do you think so, Andrea? I mean,
I do. I actually do. I know that to be true because I've worked for companies that have had that kind of growth, but then I've also worked for companies that have not, and what it looks like when things plateau. And what I've noticed over the years is that it's really hard to build momentum if you've been around for 5 years and you're really just not kind of seeing that upward growth. And some are faster than others, like Smart Sweets. I mean, she just hockey sticked, right? She just hockey sticked.
That's like an extreme case. Yeah.
Very much, but also people have to remember that it depends on the product that you're selling, right? So her product is applicable in so many market channels, in so many different formats. It's a grab and go and that sort of thing, right? So she really had a great opportunity to be kind of everywhere.
Tons of placements.
You can't have clip strips with, oomé tofu hanging off of them, right?
It cannot be an impulse purchase by the cash. No, it can't.
Purchase,
I'd love for that.
I know. It'd be lovely. We would all love that.
And I like those are the moments where I'm like, oh God, if only we were a chip company and we could just sell a truckload and it's fine if it sits for a few months or take up a whole wall and really merchandise.
You don't
and have
wish
that
you
wow
were a chip company. Do you know why?
There's pros
Because
and cons.
because there are multinationals that manage that category, right? So it's a very tough category to be in. They have people. Have you not walked into the store and seen those jobbers and they're standing there and they're literally refilling the shelves with Frito-Lay products, right? So it's really tough, and this is why I say things begin and end at store, right? Like that's where the magic happens. You can sell a product, but if it doesn't sell through, you're not getting anywhere, right? So I think I think you have to consider what it is that you're selling. And so I think for what you're selling, and also that it is a protein product, it is something that people can integrate into their diets. There is more flexitarian kind of behavior happening now. And so it's right product, right time, right?
It definitely feels like we've got good momentum, in terms of the data and the trends for a minimally processed protein. We're in a good spot for all of that. But I agree, like not every retailer is the right fit for us, and I'm a little bit risk averse that way. Costco, Walmart, Loblaws, like that is not for us, at least not at this time. I think it's really important to find the right fit. And then you're right, like really supporting those retailers to the best of our ability. We're very lean, also lean financially, so we can't just bombard the stores with demos and really make a big splash, but we do what we can. Yeah.
Well, you've done a great job so far. It's been wonderful. And you have a wonderful product too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Miki, just in wrapping things up, tell us how you walked into this with probably an idea of what success would look like. And so now what does success look like for you as you move along in your business?
Right. I think there's success on a number of different fronts. I think success is the type of momentum that we are already able to achieve, and I'm very grateful for that a lot of people believe in our product and we've got great momentum right now. I would say the next sort of goal for success is really financial viability. We are still a company that's in a growth stage and really targeting reaching profitability next year. And so I think that's a real marker of success for us. And then long term, like we really would love to be, we have a goal of being that #1 smoked tofu product across Canada and the U.S. as well. We would love to really
so you
explore
have desires
that.
to go into the U.S. market.
I do,
Great.
yes. I think there is just so much, I mean, more specifically Pacific Northwest, I think there's lots of potential for a product like ours. We've had some interest. There is similar buying patterns. There's just higher population density. At the moment, the dollar's in our favor. So there's a lot of, I would say, strong business cases for it, but we would go in very cautious and conservative because that can also just topple you over. And I'm well aware of that.
Yeah.
But I would say that would be another marker of success for us too.
Nice. That's great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing your story today and your exciting news that's happening. And it was just an absolute pleasure to talk with you today.
Likewise,
Thank you.
Andrea. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks.